Every time a new Anamorphics set drops, I feel like we're stuck in the same argument. Do you follow your heart or do you follow your head? Do you go for lenses with all the quirks, character and flaws that give you images with personality? Or do you play it safe with the clean, sharp and clinical lenses that are easier to work with? The new SIRUI Iron Star 1.5x full frame Anamorphics are stepping right into the middle of that debate. But are they just another set of safe, budget Anamorphics, or do they actually bring something new to the table? And more importantly, what do I think of these lenses? Let's find out. The Iron Star Anamorphics are all full frame T1.9 and they're releasing as an initial set of 3 lenses. So we've got a 35, a 45 and a 60mm lens. And they've confirmed that there'll be 3 more focal lengths coming out. So we've got a 75, 100 and 135 still to come. Honestly, for this initial release, I think I would have preferred to have seen the 75 instead of the 60. It just feels like the 35, the 45 and the 60 are all in a very sort of similar focal range and not necessarily giving you a decent spread to work with. They're all T1.9 as well, which is really impressive for lenses of this size and price point. I think the headline feature for me though is that these lenses are releasing with swappable mounts and that they're also shipping with mounts, so you can get them in either EF or PL. So with the SIRUI Saturns we were stuck with just mirrorless mounts, which really limited their use across different camera systems, but in this case they're really easy to change and it means that you can hop these lenses on pretty much any camera you want. What really impressed me though is that these lenses have a really good adjustable rear focus system, which we saw on the DZO film Pavo. So instead of having to take the lens off, make adjustments or shim the lens and put the lens back on the camera and then check if you've got it right, you can keep the lens mounted to the camera. It's got a really simple rear ring. You set the focus to infinity, use a little screwdriver to undo the ring, move it until you get peak sharpness, tighten it up and then you're good to go. And it's just a super efficient system and it's amazing to see it on lenses of this price. Previously, SIRUI released the Saturns, which were tiny carbon fiber lenses, really lightweight, easy to chuck a 3 lens set in your backpack and you probably wouldn't know that they were there. Slightly different story of these lenses, they are a lot chunkier, still pretty small for Anamorphics to be honest. But there is a significant increase in both size and weight, and if you're carrying 3 of these lenses on your back, you are going to feel it. And because of the increased size, they also have quite a peculiar front filter thread, so you're going to have a bit of difficulty adapting filters. SIRUI do ship the set, I think, with a native 92mm VND, which is a good option. I'd recommend getting one of these. It's an H&Y Revo ring, and that basically just has an adjustable diaphragm that will allow you to fit 95mm filters onto the front of the lens, which is a more standard filter size. The configuration I've mostly been using is with this, which is my Mofage PL adapter, PL to L, and that's because it's got drop-in ND filters. It's just a little bit easier to manage. Straight out of the box, the lenses didn't mount to that adapter, unfortunately, but thankfully they have this sort of removable rear cap that covers the back focus adjustment ring, and you can just take that off, and then once you do, the lenses mount fine to most PL adapters I found. Seems like a bit of an oversight from SIRUI, but it's no big deal. So yes, these lenses do lean into the cleaner side of budget Anamorphics. Depending on who you are, that's either a good thing or a bad thing. You know, personal preferences when it comes to anamorphic lenses is so varied and it seems to be such a source of debate online. But, you know, if you are looking for crazy, chaotic, magic anamorphic lenses with loads of barrel distortion, then yeah, these aren't going to be the ones for you. They are pretty sharp for Anamorphics. You know, wide open, they're not the sharpest, but because they are T1.9, once you get down to around T2.8, you're getting decent sharpness. They're not going to be sharper than sort of what you're used to on spherical lenses, so by that standard, they're still pretty soft. In terms of sharpness and fall off from the center of the frame, yes, center sharpness is strongest and it falls off, especially when you're wide open, and there is some vignetting. As you stop down to T2.8 to T4, sharpness across the frame does improve. There's also some subtle highlight blooming when shooting wide open, which is quite nice actually. It reduces when you stop down. as does vignetting. It's certainly miles away from what you see on the Blazar Remus, which just has crazy fall off from the sensor and loads of distortion at the side. Again, it's personal preference. So if you want something a little bit more restrained, a little bit cleaner, these lenses are definitely going to give you that. Dramatic aberration is surprisingly well controlled on these lenses. Like, it's there if you look for it, but even when shooting wide open, it's hard to find in the frame. It's very balanced. It's certainly not intrusive. Kind of surprising because on most anamorphic lenses, it's there, even on very expensive ones. But on these, again, it's what adds to this very clean, modern look. Again, it's up to you. A lot of people like some of that grunge in the frame in their anamorphics because it adds to some of the character of the frame, but you're just not going to see it in these lenses. I think maybe where these lenses really fall down, in my opinion, is on their bokeh. 1.5 times is sort of at the precipice of where we begin to get a nice, strong anamorphic look in lenses, and the bokeh is one of the things that really signals that, right? That sort of classic oval bokeh. Quality of the bokeh is kind of stuck somewhere between spherical and anamorphic, and I think almost the 1.6 times SIRUI Saturns have a nicer quality of bokeh than these. The other thing I didn't love about these lenses was the amount of pincushion distortion. Again, this is the personal preference, but I'm in the camp of wanting the sort of more classic barrel distortion that we see on lenses like the Remus. But on these lenses, the pincushion distortion is pretty exaggerated, especially on the wider focal lengths like the 35 and the 45, and you can see it here. Now, it's not the end of the world. You can correct it in post to some degree, but by doing that, you are going to be changing the framing of your lens. It zooms into the image a bit, and I'd far rather get an image in camera ready to go than have to tweak it and perfect it in post. So despite those drawbacks, there was some stuff that I really liked about these lenses. And I think the main one was that, I spent a week shooting with these lenses on the LUMIX S1 Mark II. Now, that's a modern mirrorless camera. It's pretty sharp. It's pretty digital looking right out the bat. You've got to pair it with the right lenses. You've got to treat it in post in order to tame that digital image. And I think using lenses like this is just one way of doing that. And for people who don't want an overpowering, wild anamorphic look, but they do just want to add, a little bit of character, they want to soften the image up and just make it a little bit more interesting than what they would get using spherical glass, these lenses are a really good option and a really good way of doing that. Because the images do look more organic, they do look more interesting when you shoot with them over, even using my Vespids. And I can see that being a massive positive for a lot of people who just want to sprinkle a little bit of magic on the frame without going too far down that road with the likes of the Blazar Remus. Compared to previous anamorphic lenses that SIRUI have made and from other brands like Laowa, these do have a much improved close focus, especially on the 35 and 45, which share the same, and it's slightly worse on the 60. And for budget anamorphics, it's really cool to see that they've improved on that. I guess on the 45 it's the best of both worlds because you've got a bit more magnification on the focal length, but you've still got a great close focus relative to that 35. For me, when testing the 35mm on the SIRUI Saturns, the close focus on that was too limiting for me to want to use those lenses. Flaring on these lenses is also something that I really like. It looks organic. It's much nicer than the sort of streaky, tapped on, liney flares that we see on the Blazar Remus. These lenses don't flare aggressively, like you do have to work to get them to flare. They have a main primary flare and a secondary flare as well. There are some green hints in that secondary flare, which I don't love, but for the price point, you can't have everything. Let's take a quick look at the minimum focus distance across all three focal lengths. I've got to quickly chuck in a comparison with the older SIRUI Saturn, the 35mm. You can see there's a massive difference in minimum focus distance between the 35 SIRUI Saturn and the Iron Star. This is going to make a huge difference to how you shoot. Also, just note a few visual differences between the lenses. The SIRUI Saturn seems to be a little bit more contrasty and pushes maybe a little bit more green, whereas the Iron Star are maybe just a little bit warmer and maybe just less contrasty overall. Overall, whether you vibe with these lenses and the look and what they can give you is going to be completely down to your own personal preference. So I think this goes back to owning lenses that appeal to either your heart or your head. You know, the Iron Star lenses produce a clean, modern, anamorphic look. They're sharp, they're controlled, they're subtle. Whether these are a good fit for you will depend on, you know, what you want to use them for. If you really want to affect your frame, you know, get something that's really magic and wild and chaotic, these probably aren't the lenses for you. And that's okay. So, you know, if you're shooting music videos or more creative narrative projects, then yes, the Remus are probably going to be a better fit for you. But if you're shooting branded content, docs, corporate, stuff like that, interview-based stuff, then I think these are probably going to be more suited to that. You know, if you're investing in lenses, you want to get them out on as many jobs as possible. And I can see these being a much easier sell than something like the Blazar Remus, and I've shot with the Remus, and you know, they do change the way that you shoot because of the limitations in terms of the amount of distortion at the edges of the frames and their fairly limited close focus. You just need to ask yourself, do you like clean and sharp, or do you like, you know, dirty and magic? Remember, these qualities are super personal, so there's no right or wrong here. I think also once you factor in their price, the fact that they're full frame T1.9, the versatility of the lenses, swappable mounts, back focus, and the range of focal lengths. Again, I can't necessarily knock these lenses, even if they don't quite appeal to my heart. So if you are into clean, modern anamorphics, these are probably the best option on the market right now. I'll have an affiliate link down below. I'd love to know what your thoughts on these lenses are, so let me know down in the comments. I've also just chucked a bunch of videos into a specific anamorphic playlist, so if you're interested on my thoughts on other anamorphic lens sets, do check that out. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks to Gary and Steph who modeled in this video, and thanks for you for watching if you made it this far. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and until next time, I'll see you later.